Today we're checking out the Fender Mustang GTX100 digital modeling amplifier. It's loaded with a single 12-inch speaker. In these intro clips, you're not only going to hear it mic'd up, but you'll also hear it going directly into my sound card on one of the backing tracks. And I've made all these custom presets from scratch, so I hope you like them. Let's see how it sounds. Welcome back to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. Today we're checking out the Fender Mustang GTX100 amplifier. Let's take a look. Here's the amplifier up close. Now the first thing you'll notice in comparison to the last generation of these amps is the fact these look actually really cool. They look like an amp you'd see on stage. They're kind of reminiscent to some extent of a Blues Junior. In their aesthetics, at least anyway, they've gone for that kind of look. The grill cloth is a bit of a different color. but I really dig it. So it looks more like a conventional amplifier. If you saw this on stage, you wouldn't know any difference. Not that it matters anyway, you play whatever sounds good, but I like the look. It's a huge upgrade from the previous version in my opinion. Here's the top section of the amplifier. One of the cool things about the Mustang GT amps is the fact that you don't necessarily need the app on your phone to get the most out of it. Everything you can do with the app, you can do simply by using the LED screen, these controls, as well as this main dial over here. So everything can be done on the amplifier without needing to hook it up to anything else to get the most out of it. I really like that. On the back of the amplifier, we have a whole lot of really cool functionality as well. We have two XLR outputs, so you can go directly into your sound card like you heard at the start, or you can go essentially out into a PA system, and then you can set your amplifier at any volume thanks to the master volume control. If you have the master volume control all the way down, the speaker internally isn't going to be producing any sound, but you can run it out into a PA system and use the other volume control to set your volume. I think that's really cool. So, or you can get a blend between them both, or however you want to run it. So the XLR isn't affected by the master volume of the amplifier, which means you can set it up for how loud you want it on stage and then run it out into the mixer or PA system. Now, if we take a look at the back as well, we get a Footswitch input as well, which I'll show you in just a second. We get a stereo effects loop at the back as well. So if you want to use some external effects, which we'll check out in this video as well, you can use those for delays and reverbs and all that kind of stuff. Firstly, a massive thank you to Fender for sending this out. I really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about this amp, links will be in the description below. Now, firstly, what I'm not going to do in this video is cycle through all the presets. That's not what these amps are about, and those kind of videos are a little bit lazy. I get it, some people don't really want to fiddle with amps, but if that's the case, these amps aren't for you. The way to get the most out of these, much like the previous versions as well, is to make the sounds that sound good to you and to get the tones that are in your head out of the amp. That's what I try to do. That's what I did on that Mustang Monday series, was pretty much try to replicate tones I really liked. So we're going to go through some of the presets I made with this. I'll leave some time codes in the description below. I hope you like this video. I hope you like the tones. At the end of the video, I'll give you my thoughts about how it feels to play, what I'm hearing in the room, and whether or not it's a viable upgrade over some of the older amps as well, because I know a lot of people will be asking about that. So time codes will be in the description below. Here we go. Let's start with this first preset. Now what I've done, I've got a Deluxe reverb set up with some reverb, and this is how that sounds. So a little bit of hair on there already. Now we're going to add the old trusty tube screamer. Sounds great. A little bit of delay. So that would be my lead tone, no questions about it. That's the sound that I go for. Now what we're going to do is turn off the delay and turn on the modulation. Have a listen to this. This is neck pickup. In the room, that's got so much sort of throw of sound. The bottom end feels really great. Now with a little bit of delay as well, just on top of all of that. Now I use that Leslie type effect just for comping behind another guitar player. It usually works pretty well. This next preset's for those who like to rock, who don't like a complicated setup. So it's a Marshall amp setting with a little bit of reverb, and that's it. Here we go. It's a bridge pickup on my Tokai. Over to neck. Let's try that with the volume control turned down. And back up. Now if you wanted, you could add more effects to that. You could use a clean boost, you could run that into it and get more drive or whatever you choose to use. But if you like to keep it simple, you can definitely do that with this amp as well. Gain channel, reverb, done. This next clean tone is heavily inspired by someone back on my wall back here. You'll probably work it out as we get going. It's a clean tone with a 65 twin, some reverb, a compressor, and also a little bit of delay, and you can turn those on and off via the switch. Here we go. And now without the delay pedal, take a listen to this. Over to both pickups. Spanky! This next patch I made is maybe one of my favorites. It's a Marshall with a clon, some delay, all the stuff that I love. Let's take a listen to this. This is without the overdrive going into it to start with. And now with the clon. Yeah, all right. This next patch is the heavy one that you heard on that intro track that was kind of rocking. Now this is based on a boogie, so I've just got that amplifier head and some reverb, and that is it. So let's take a listen to this one. This is bridge pickup. The noise gate's quite good too. I've got it set to medium on this one. Even with P90s, it's not buzzing that badly. Here we go. Now this particular amp model doesn't quite have the same sort of present mids as a lot of the other patches, and that's just the voicing of this amp. It's got lots of bass, lots of treble, so if you dig that kind of tone, you can definitely get it. There's a lot of guys that will like that scoop sound. Personally, for my type of style of playing, normally I don't really like an overly scooped kind of tone, but it's there if you so choose to use it. Let's check out the looper. I haven't used the looper in a long time, but I've set this up clean to start with, and then when I get to my solo section, I'll switch over to the effects preset on the pedal and click in some delay and also a little bit of overdrive. Here we go. there's a quick example of the looper. Now I really like having something to play to as opposed to nothing to play to. There's nothing worse than just sitting there noodling around without any intention. Set up a groove, a couple of chords or whatever, and then play over it and find parts to complement it. It's a really good songwriting process to do that as well. Usually when I'm writing an album, what I'll do, I'll get a looper out and I'll play over it just to see if there's inspiration there or whether it sounds like an actual song. So that process to me is great for your timing, great for your creativity, and it's better than just noodling around. Up next, we're going to see whether or not the XLR output sounds anywhere near as good as a couple of microphones in front of the amp. Now, I'm just going to keep this part short. You're going to hear the same thing twice, both recorded at exactly the same time. So I've taken the E906 off the amplifier. We've just got the SM57 in front of it, and the left output is going straight to the sound card. So the same thing twice. Here we go. Let me know in the comments which one you like best and why. Let's see how well the amplifier takes pedals now. I've switched it over to a preset I made using a super reverb patch. Here we go. And now with the Buffalo Effects Carrera Overdrive. It got a whole lot brighter, so I'd probably have to back off the treble on my pedal a little bit compared to some of my other amps. It actually sounds pretty respectable. It's still got that throw of sound. It just, I don't know if it's a better sound than just using the actual effects that are built in there. But I'm going to try another side, another overdrive right now, and then some delay as well. Here we go. Actually sounds pretty good. I think you've got to select the right kind of overdrive for a lot of these digital modeling amps. You want something with a little bit of a mid hump. That's why the Carrera totally rocks in combination with the Royal Flush. Just kind of pushes the right frequencies. Overall, that's completely usable. I'm not sure you'd choose to use your pedal board over the effects that are built in if you have the Footswitch, but the options there, you do get more flexibility in terms of just immediately being able to change something with a tangible control. Thanks for watching, guys. My name's Shane. A massive thanks goes out to Fender for sending this out. I really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about it, links will be in the description below. So what do I think of this amplifier overall? I would say this is the best Mustang since the V2 amps, hands down. It has a bigger 3D projection. It doesn't sound like the sound's coming out of the back of the amp, which was my criticism of some of the GT amps. They just didn't have a very forward throw of sound like a regular amplifier. I remember when I tested the old Fender Mustang version 2 against the GT, there wasn't even a comparison. The old one just sounded more like a regular amplifier in terms of its throw. This throws a lot of wind, and one thing I like about it as well, which I didn't feel as much on the other GT amplifier, is the fact that when you really dig in, you get that big bloom of sound under your feet. If you're standing up, it's got this big push of low end, and it feels a whole lot more like a regular amplifier. I'm really digging the tones I got out of this. The first thing though is, man, this is so loud. It's so loud. So I would say this is easily loud enough to gig with. I'm yet to try that, obviously, because of what's going on around the world right now. But when I get a chance to test this out live, I'm going to do it. I think the Footswitch is fantastic as well. It makes life a whole lot easier. I love the fact you don't need your phone to get everything out of the amplifier. You can just use the screen. So that's cool as well. And given your different situation in different rooms, you've got all the controls on the top that you could need, like all the bass, mids, treble, reverb. All of that is just really easily changed on the fly. So I like that also. One of the clear audible differences between this version and some of the older ones is the XLR outs are finally really usable. I think they sound fantastic. Now on Fender's official demo of this amp, which I'll leave a link up to in the cards if you want to hear that. They go through some of the presets going directly into a sound card, which I thought sounded fantastic, so check that out. But I know a lot of people will still want to mic this up, and I always wanted to mic these up over using the XLR outs, but if I was in a pinch and I was using this at a gig and I had to go to the PA system, that XLR out on the back really sounds good. It's the best it sounded in my opinion. Now in terms of the Footswitch, I also like the fact that this is as easy to get going as it is. You've got one button up here where you can change it between the preset mode, so you can cycle through each of the effects mode, which is the one that I like. So you can essentially set it up like a regular amp clean with an overdrive or a distortion pedal and turn those effects like distortion and delay and reverb on and off. I really like that. And being able to move the effects around in the chain via the app or even just via the amp means you can assign whichever button you want to each of those effects. I think that's really cool as well. One of the cool things about this amplifier, as well as the companion app, the Fender Tone app, is the fact that the app is as intuitive as it is. I got used to it straight away, but you don't need it. If you don't have an iPad or a smartphone or whatever, you can just use the LCD screen on the front and do the same exact things. Now the app does make certain things a little bit easier, but I set up all these presets without it. So yeah, you can just, it's up to you whether or not you want to use it. But if you're coming from the Fender Fuse software, I gotta tell you, the new app it's so much easier. It's light years ahead. So to get the most out of this amplifier, don't just use the presets. Sure, you can start with one that you like, but then dig in and play around with it and you'll get the most out of it. One thing I see come up in the comment sections of a lot of other video reviews of this particular amplifier is people feel like the distortions are not very good to start with. And I gotta tell you, all the Fender tones straight away sound great, and some of the drive tones don't sound that good, but they can be easily fixed very, very easily. And I'm going to show you some of the tips and tricks I do to get tones out of these amps on a follow-up video, because once I modified a few settings, I was like, this actually sounds great, and it gives you back that big sound. It takes away the fizz or the squish. So I'm going to show you how to do that on a follow-up video, but I really feel like this is the best Mustang since the V2. If you've been holding off and you weren't that interested in the GT amps, the GTX is by far the one I would choose over if you've got an option between the GT and this. It kind of sucks in a way for a lot of people who had the GT amp that they've released another one. That's just that hierarchy of technology. Every few years something new comes out. But this hopefully will be around for a while. I really feel like they've nailed a lot of the criticisms I had of the old one, including 3D projection, which means the sound didn't feel like it was coming out forwards on the prior generation of these amps, but they've nailed that with this one. It sounds a whole lot more like a regular amp in the room, and it's so loud. I gotta tell you, it's really, really loud. In terms of the global EQ, I don't feel like it's that required. Sure, you can use it if you so choose. It may help you more if you're going directly to the sound card to mix those up, but if you're just playing it in the room like I am here, or if you take it out to a jam night or rehearsal, odds are you probably won't need a whole lot of that global EQ. Sometimes it can sort of take away the tone to some extent. So try to set it up right, and I'm going to make these patches available coming up pretty soon as well. So I'll leave any information about that in the description below about the patches if you want to find those. But overall, I'm really happy with this. I had no expectations when Fender said they wanted to send one out. I was thankful, but I was like, you know, I don't have the same expectations I had of the V2. I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. So I would feel very comfortable recommending this amp way more than I have some of the other ones that I've tried in the previous years. So definitely give this one a look. Thanks again for watching. Links will be below. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. Hang in there. I'll do a follow-up video about how I go about making some tones, and maybe I'll make some more presets if that's something that interests folks as well. Thanks again. Catch you soon. See ya.